Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the Yo Video Games podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to our generous patrons who've kept us going for nearly 500 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideoGamesPodcast. Dude of the week is Hockey Kong 64. Also, producer. Thank you, Hockey Kong.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Hockey Kong. Maybe see you again at EVO this year, maybe.
EVO.
It's been a while, but, you know, it could happen.
Yeah, what are the dates for EVO this year? July, right around your birthday still?
No, it's back in August, I think.
Back in August. Yee.
I think. I should know this by heart, and I don't.
Spending. Well, August is gonna be a busy month for you, so I don't know if you're even gonna go. But I'm definitely not gonna go. I have to fly now, us Bama boys. But thank you so much, Hockey Kong, and hopefully you love the Randy Pitchford episode. This episode's not going to be entirely about Randy Pitchford, but
well, it's you know, it's the summer season. You know, sun's out, guns out. You know, it's time to play some games. You know, have some fun with some water sports. So of course, it's a Randy Pitchford episode.
Cocaine and piss, the Randy Pitchford cocktail. Allegedly, it's the Randy Pitchford cocktail. We don't know that.
Well, I mean, yeah, we could switch it up. We could talk about medieval times. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Justin cocaine.
Something out of our wheelhouse.
It's just, the thing is, I feel like I've been pretty gentle on Randy. For the most part, I've given him benefit of the doubt, but then he just says something like so ludicrous to where, and it's not even the worst thing he's ever said. For anybody that doesn't know, Randy says, if you're a real fan, you're going to make $80 for Borderlands 4 work. You'll make it work. You're a real fan. And I just want to know, who are these real fans, Randy? Like, my wife is probably the closest I can think of to an actual, like, real fan. She's played all of the Borderlands. But as soon as I told her that it's going to be 8 years, she's like, oh, we'll just wait a couple of years. She's amped for it, Randy.
She probably doesn't even need to wait a couple. It'll probably be a year. But
yeah, the friggin' E3 she got to go to, I think it was Borderlands 3, and she like stayed in that line 3 or 4 times. She's amped. She's as close as it comes to a hardcore fan of Borderlands, and she's like, we'll just wait a couple of years.
Well, I mean, I think this just drives point. Let's just get the point out of the way. My point. Whatever the point I want to make here is no game is worth $80, like on its own. Would I pay $80 for any video game? Yes, I would.
And
there are games. Well, and with collector's editions, special editions,
stuff
sure,
like that.
But I mean on base value, like the core digital download, nothing extra with it. No game is worth $80. Just at the end of the day, that is my stance. My stance is straight up. I don't think any game is worth $80. Xenoblade's worth $80, but that's for me. Like,
well, then I'm trying to think of like
I would not sit there and say like $80. Yeah, totally worth it. It's too much, man. It's too much. When you're within $20 of 100 of triple digits, I'm just like, it's too much because the tax you're gonna get on it on top of it are gonna get you closer to that
when your
closer
plan
to 100.
is shaming someone about spending the money. When your main point that you got to make is well, if you were a real fan, okay, yeah, real fan, you're asking for my money. Like, what are you talking about?
And that's the thing is, like, as I always try to iterate, these are video games. We're talking about it. We are graciously funded by people, but these are a luxury item, man. It's a luxury item. Like, I'll hate it, but I'll be able to live without it.
Yeah, like I don't know. Again, he says
like
this, and Minecraft and Fortnite still just dominate. They're still like dominating the player time every month. Every month it comes out, and you know the first like 4 or 5 slots of the
Yeah.
same old live service. What it's just like there's plenty of competition, and yet Randy is acting, and it's not just Randy. To be completely fair to sweet Mr. Pitchford, he is saying something that everybody in his position in the industry wants to say and has said. They want to bump up the price. They are trying to increase the profit margin on games.
And he
Period.
he didn't even start this. This actually got started a little bit earlier with Shuhei Yoshida.
Yeah, because this was a reply to someone.
Right. So I have the
Right.
okay. So IGN was the one interviewing Randy Pitchford, um, and the exchange is IGN said, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase of the price tag. You are the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher. And Randy Pitchford's response was A, not my call. B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen.
He's a real fan.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Hey, where's that franchise?
Well, one, he says, A, not my call, which even being the head of Gearbox, he's right.
Yeah,
let's give
it's
credit.
the publisher is going to set the price.
Take Two is the one who's going to decide it. It is not his call. It is not. Which is where he should have just ended it. if he was smart, he would have just said, "Not my call." If he was smart and wanted to be empathetic, he'd be like, "Not my call. I hope we can keep prices, reasonable. I hope we can make a price point. I hope we can hit a price point that is agreeable to everyone." B, done. Like,
the beauty and the danger of Randy Pitchford is that he says exactly what's on his mind.
So now getting to what he did say is, and this is a point I've seen. Hell, I've even kind of argued it where people are like, fighting games cost too much. And I'm like, man, do you remember how much we used to have to pay? And it's like, not because I want to go back to it, but like, yeah, like it used to cost $85 to buy Street Fighter 2, any version on Super NES.
Right.
So.
And again, the market was extremely small. By today's standards, it was very small. There was not a lot of competition in the market at that time in the 90s, the early 90s. This is post-crash.
Well, and he's trying to deflect the idea that like it cost the exact same amount of money 30 odd years ago, and when I was working minimum wage, which was obviously going to be so much less then. And I mean, not to get too much into an economic debate here, but working a minimum wage, you would earn less than a minimum wage job in 1991 than you would now, going by Pismo Beach standards.
Yeah, rent was also $200 a month.
But the cost of living was actually significantly lower than that minimum wage paycheck was.
Oh, yeah.
Someone fresh out of high school right now, working a minimum wage job, pretty much anywhere in the country, let's just be real here, can't afford their own rent on their own.
Yeah. Well, and,
let alone an $80 video game.
One of my favorite things when I I was still in high school. And you remember 2 of our friends were splitting a 3-bedroom apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them, one worked at Target, and the other, I actually don't remember where, but it was another similar like retail minimum wage. This was in 2006. Okay, 3-bedroom apartment in fucking Los Angeles in 2006, and they both had minimum wage jobs. Okay, my 1-bedroom apartment when I was living in the exact same complex, I don't know, 10 years later, was $1,600 a month for like the smallest apartment they had. Like, well, what were they paying at that time that they could split the rent on it? Okay, well, and at that time it was the highest it had ever been. The 90s was dirt cheap in terms of percentage of your rent. Like cost of living in the 90s. What's funny is cost of living in the 90s was rising, but in 91, when he's talking about like when this, I think it's 91 when this game came
Yeah,
out.
he said 1991.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just this weird disconnect where like he's saying something that's true, right? Oh, money goes further, or money went further back then than it does today. Like, $80 isn't $80 anymore today. Yeah, that's true with inflation and stuff like that. But also everything else around entertainment has gotten significantly more expensive. Like, I don't understand how you.
Not to mention, what are your options as far as new game releases in 1991 versus
Well, he said
new
it.
game, today?
He said the
when,
option.
Just today alone, I'll bet 100 new indie games released on Steam today.
Well, okay, yeah, indie games absolutely worthy of bringing up here, but I'll say in his defense, he's saying just AAA games. Now, granted, was the game he's comparing it to AAA by today's standards? I don't know. I don't know if there was really AAA and AA games in 91. Genuinely, I was 3 years old. I can't necessarily pick that out.
There were video games.
Yeah, it was just games. All games were sort of in the same category. One, it only took 6 months to make a game at the time, but my point being is like, even if you just talk AAA, there's so many games coming out AAA. Like, again, going back to when we graduated, or when I graduated high school, there might be 5 games in a year that I really wanted.
Yeah.
That'd be like, really
I'm
would
still
like.
kind of like just sitting here looking at like Starflight, because like it's like a PC. It's an Electronic Arts game. It's like a PC port of like a sort of space sims mining, very simulator type. It looks like nothing special. Like Randy just got ripped off in 1991 for the game. He's trying to gaslight people into thinking the price is fair. It's like in 91, I would have saw this game in 1991 and would not have touched it. I would not have been impressed. Like,
10 years later, there's Pilot Wings, and he could have just got that for a much better experience.
No, Pilot Wings came out the same year. Like,
Pilot Wings came out in 91?
Yes. Like,
no, I guess I'm thinking of Pilot Wings 64.
Yeah, 5 years later, but it's like,
but still.
I remember 91. I actually remember 91. I would have saw this game and would have been, this looks like trash. I mean, it barely looks better than an NES game from a graphical standpoint. So
yeah, but he's a true fan.
Yeah, is this just saying like, oh, I was a true fan? I was a true fan of this fucking boring ass Star Trek space simulator that was ported from some early Apple II looking PC to the Genesis in 91, and you decided that was $80. Like,
it's one of those things where I don't know.
I'm going to get so much hate from some random Starflight fans. There's going to be this underground community of Murlocs of Starflight fans that are just going to like emerge and just be like, how dare you? Starflight was the most amazing game ever made, you unappreciative jackass.
And in Randy's defense, again, I hate that I'm defending him again, is like, it's too random of a pick. Like, he didn't just Google what came out in 1991 and then picked that. Like, he really did spend that money and probably really is a true fan. Like, he didn't pick that out of a hat, you know?
Well, okay.
That's a magic joke. Because Randy loves magic.
Well, you know.
For everyone who doesn't know, he loves magic. He owns the magic castle.
He owns the magic castle.
I miss Cocaine Randy. That's all I'm
Look,
saying.
Man, he loves magic. He loves Borderlands. He loves Gushers. But here's the thing. He's just my ultimate point in this whole episode, because Yoshida's next on my chopping block here. He's not the one to be saying this, okay? You're the CEO of a mega successful game developer in Texas. I think it's Austin, I believe, because I'm not sure where everyone is. But Borderlands highly successful. Made a lot of money off that. Made a lot of money off of the money Sega gave him for Aliens. Okay, maybe didn't make money off that, but whatever. Like, point is he made money. They got bought by Take-Two. They're a successful developer. He is a successful game director, CEO, head of Gearbox. This man does not know what struggling financially looks like anymore. And frankly, the target demographic of Borderlands, of his game, of his most popular franchise, is for people who don't actually have a ton of money, because he's hitting the 18 to 35 demographic pretty hard here, and he's hitting mostly the out of college meme lords, who want to hang with their buds and socially play, loot and shoot. And these people don't have money because nobody gets money out, even out of college, even successfully graduating colleges doesn't mean anything hardly.
Yeah,
anymore.
look around. Nobody's got a whole lot of cash right now. Buy now, pay later for fucking groceries is like up by 60% for groceries. Damn.
So I don't. It's like you said. What he's saying is not necessarily false. Games did cost $80 back in 1991, and minimum wage did earn you less in 1991. However, don't tell people. You should not be telling people, giving them a litmus test of loyalty for your franchise.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because the game is going up in cost, because Borderlands 1 and 2 and probably 3, I don't remember, but at least 1 and 2, those were $60 games at release. 3 might have been 70. I don't think it was. I'm pretty sure it was 60.
3 was 60 as well.
So,
but I don't know that.
You're going up in price. You are increasing the cost of your game another 33%. Like we are jumping 33% from our last 3 games, potentially 3 games, or at least the first 2, if not the third.
Yeah, it was $60, and then the Super Deluxe Edition was available at $79.99.
Sure. So again, we're talking about, okay, is Borderlands 4 going to give you 33% more video game? I don't know. Again, this is not really a quantifiable effect here. Because again, if you want to boil down, okay, well, what is time versus investment? And it's like, okay, well, my fiance and me will sometimes play Fortnite. You know how much she spent on Fortnite?
$0.
$0. You know how many hours we've put in now? I mean, we could actually calculate it because, it's actually posted somewhere. So
2.5.
No. Because she has on her channel on Tattooed Nadia, she has some of our Fortnite games, which is a few hours alone. That's not even counting the Lego Fortnite.
No, I know. You've streamed it a lot. You've probably played 100 hours of Fortnite at least. But
my point is that, okay, Fortnite is a game that is free 99. And people like my fiance who's played it, and me, she's put $0 into the game and had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
$80, $80 effing dollars, and you're gonna sit here and tell me, this game will last you so long. I'm like, Fortnite is never ending.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sit here and say like, this looter shooter is going to give you so many hours. This free game is going to give me more.
It's definitely one of those things where, like, you can't make a penny per hour argument when you have free-to-play games of the quality that we have now.
Yeah, you can't. And you know who did try to make a penny per hour argument? Shuhei Yoshida, the former Shuhei Yoshida, the former PlayStation executive, had another choice quote even before Randy, when he was talking to Yahoo Tech at Yahoo. I guess they still exist. Again, Yahoo's actually still big in Japan.
They're trying to buy. Yahoo's trying to buy someone right now.
Well, again, they actually have success in Japan and probably other countries, but
Wow.
Shuhei Yoshida said, I don't believe that every game has to be priced the same. Yoshida continues, each game has different values it provides or the size of the budget. I totally believe it's up to the publisher or developer self-publishing decision. It's their decision to price their product to the value that they believe they are bringing in. Okay, I guess it's kind of fair, but maybe a little naive. Yoshida continues to say that in terms of actual price of $70 or $80 for really great games, I think it will be a steal in terms of the amount of entertainment that the top games, top quality games bring to people compared to other form of entertainment. As long as people choose carefully, because again, everything he's saying here is kind of like fine, yeah, okay. As long as people choose carefully how they spend their money, he continues, I don't think they should be complaining. And that's where he loses me. Like, don't complain that top quality video games are costing $80 because you're getting a lot of mileage per minute here. And it's like,
He's
you're
not wrong.
not
He's just an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yes, like a perfectly, stated from Big Lebowski. It's kind of like, you're not the person who should be saying this. A former PlayStation executive. This motherfucker and his shit-eating grin will never know a day of hunger for the rest of his fucking life. So to sit there and tell the general worldwide population that $80 for a game is a steal and you shouldn't complain, it's a little bit like, you know what? Fuck you.
I don't make the thing is like no one who's starving is buying a game. But here's where my problem, this just leads back to that same problem we were talking about when we were talking about Alana Pierce's video. They're trying to increase profit margins because they want that insane line to keep going up.
Yeah.
They are insanely profitable. Games are insanely profitable. It's the reason that they're mad or they're searching for ways to increase profits is because they don't want to be a matured market. Why? Because they're investment driven. They don't care about you, the customer. They care about the investor who only wants to see the line go up forever. Yeah. And it's like a matured market used to be a really awesome thing because it meant that it was stable. It would grow at very stable amounts. It meant that when you go to retire, your investment's still going to be worth quite a bit of money. And now it's like, oh, that's not what it is. Now it's gambling. Now they want to hit...
it is just straight up a casino. You're just playing roulette.
Yeah, you're hoping to win big really quick. You want short-term gains. And that's one of the reasons why all their decisions are sort of baffling to anybody who has even a basic understanding of just like business. If you didn't go to business school to learn about investment-driven markets, you're sitting there like, well, wait a second. They have a good product. They have great profit margins. Why are they rocking the boat?
There's kind of a sick part of me that almost hopes that these major mega publishers actually just go out of business. Like, it actually just causes them to implode completely. And then as someone rises from it, whether they just do it from like a smaller indie dev style thing, and you get like maybe your small time publishers like Sandfall or whatever, and then they're like, well, are you going to publish your earnings? Nope. And just never go public. Like that is almost my sick desire, is that they just never go public. Like whatever, like that like a phoenix out of the ashes of an industry that burned itself to the ground.
Well,
people
I don't
that
think
rise
we're gonna...
out just go, well, we're private.
I hate to be pessimistic, but I don't think that's going to happen because so much investment money is there. They can float for a long time on their mistakes.
I mean, to use a terrible phrase that's unrelated, it's a little too big to fail at this point, or it's a little too unrealistic. Like, what I'm saying would actually be pretty devastating, because the reality is that even if all the major publishers burned out, like, the industry itself would probably like implode itself. Because we wouldn't see a comeback. Because no matter how much you crawl back from the ashes, that's going to still mean, you thought we had thousands of job cuts and layoffs. Now imagine, tens, hundreds of thousands of layoffs.
This is all good reasons why Nintendo still dominates. in terms of its practices and its outlook.
And it almost feels like they don't even listen to their shareholders.
No,
half
they
the
don't,
time.
because they're not supposed to, by the way. They're not supposed to be guided by short-term investors. They're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to do what's best for the company / yes, investors, shareholders, but they do what's best for the company, which translates to being good for the investor.
Which also one reason why Nintendo is sort of able to kind of get away with this was because of how shrewd Yamauchi was and how much throughout his life and after his life he even orchestrated it posthumously, orchestrated Nintendo buying back its own shares.
Well, yeah, share buybacks are something that can be abused horrendously and often do get. The thing that
Don't
made
get me
them
wrong,
smart,
I'm sure they are.
Nintendo, the thing that makes them smart, and I don't know if it's a law in Japan or, I'm ignorant of that. They don't compensate executives based on share price.
No, I don't
They
believe
get
so.
they get a salary. They don't get bonuses or
Yeah, no, I
it's
don't think they
based
do.
on stock performance, which we also like we American companies also did not used to do that, and then switched into where all, especially CEO, but all executive compensation is based on the shareholder value or the stock price, and that's how you get like, oh, I'm just going to make sure that it goes up this quarter no matter what the cost is because I'm only going to be here for 2 years and I'll get an insane compensation package for having it go up. Doesn't matter that they're basically cutting themselves off at the knees playing the world's shittiest game of Jenga, but the tower's taller, so who cares if we're unstable?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I just to for example here, Electronic Arts and their current Bond villain lookalike of a CEO, Andrew Wilson. Um, what is his annual salary? In 2024, he earned $25.6 million. You want to know what his base salary was?
$1.
That's happened before, but I don't think it's not true right now. 1.3 million.
Yeah, so there's a very popular thing you'll see when like a CEO, specifically American CEO, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm reducing my pay to $1 because I believe in this company." Really, it's always been a ploy. They increase their earnings on the
Right.
back end through
So like I
stock
said,
price.
he earns 1.3 million base salary. He earned stock awards worth $20.4 million. Non-equity incentive plan compensation of $3.4 million.
Sick.
And other compensation of over $500,000.
So cool.
So most of his money, that's 1 year. That's 1 year. Most of his yearly wealth comes from stock awards.
So
So
cool.
when you see EA fucking over as many employees as possible, there's your reason. Because motherfucker can't be happy with 1.3 million a year. He needs that 20.
Where do you expect him to live? Pismo Beach? He wants to be in Laguna.
or Playa del Rey or wherever EA is headquartered.
Yeah, he wants to be in isn't EA is a California company, isn't it?
Yeah, they're Redwood and Playa del Rey.
Oh, I didn't realize they were Northern California.
Well, one part is. I think their headquarters, like I said, Playa del Vista, Playa del Rey, whatever that.
So he lives in Dana Point.
I don't think he'd drive all the way up there because they're near Santa Monica.
Oh wow!
I think that's where their offices are.
If I had 1.3 million in salary and lived in Southern California, Dana Point would be a pretty solid place to live.
Now, Redwood City's their headquarters. Sorry,
Probably lives in Manhattan Beach or Huntington Beach.
NorCal, you're all right for
okay.
the headquarters. Redwood.
Well, still, point is, he's a dick.
He's in Bay Area.
Maybe he's a really nice guy. I don't know.
No, he's.
I don't like the system.
But either way, like the point is that the guy at the top, his yearly salary is dependent on how much stock he can move. So
Well, this is all just like one big. What could it possibly cost? $20. Like it's one big meme.
It's just a video game. What could it possibly cost? $80?
It's like, and Randy, you were much cooler when you wore lame shirts and did magic on stage. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
I think ultimately, just the ultimate point is just games do provide an incredible amount of entertainment value, and they do give you hours and hours and hours of entertainment value. They really do. But don't be the CEO or a former executive and tell anyone else that the price is fine. Don't complain. You'll find a way if you're a true fan. Like
millionaire.
you're like one of those like weirdo megachurch pastors, you know,
Jesus
who flies
says,
around
I need this jet.
yeah, who flies around in a private jet, and is telling you like, you know, if you're a true believer, you'll give 10% of your income every week, and it's like, what?
I haven't seen any mega churches down here, but man, that's it's sort of wild how many churches there are.
So, I mean, I guess for a baseline for anyone, you know, this probably should have started the episode with this, but like, let's just, what do you think is the fair price? What is a fair price? What should have, in your mind, your personal mind, what should a video game cost? What is a fair price for let's just say a top of the line video game? You know, your Grand Theft Auto, your Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Breath of the Wild, what have you.
In 2020, $60. Today, I would say that $70 is fair, given all the other forms of inflation and tariffs, and like $70 is very fair.
Mm.
The thing is like I don't even necessarily disagree with an $80 price tag for certain games. You know, games that are extreme over the top. You're going to play them for, you know, 300 hours. Your GTA 6 is like, what if GTA 6 came out at $80? They know that people are going to play it, and you know that they've put just a ridiculous amount of money.
It came
into
out
the
again
game.
too that they've spent over $1 billion on this game so far.
Yeah, it's not that I have a problem with saying the price is going up, or it's not even like personally I have a problem with the price going up because I can't afford all of them, but it's not that the price is going up that makes me say that this is gross. It's that, again, he's not wrong. He's just an asshole. Like he's sitting there like, what is the idea of a true fan? It's gaslighting you into giving money that you can't necessarily afford to get his game. And I hate that. Is $80 fair for any game at all? Like there's certain games, yeah, personally I would pay $80 for if I thought it had actual replay value. Because that's the other thing that games in 1990 had way more replay value than games today. And I know people don't want to have that conversation, but the majority of games today aren't meant to be played multiple times.
Well, that's true. I mean, on the one hand, games are way shorter because the counter argument to that is that's bullshit, Andrew. Games took you like a half hour to beat. Like, well, there's no replay value there. But they're also designed to be replayed, though. Most video games today is you're supposed to beat them once and kind of forget about it.
Yeah, and like you might get a DLC and go on. And again, I'm not arguing. Like to go back to like The Last of Us 2, I replayed the shit out of that, mostly because I unlocked like the infinite ammo, you know, that kind of crap. And going in, I liked the combat a lot, so replaying, great replay value. Was I willing to pay a $10 upgrade to play it again at PS5 settings? No. $10 was too far. I didn't need it. The jump wasn't enough, right? That's not to say that it isn't worth the $10. It probably is. It just wasn't for me. But say The Witcher 3. Now, I got that on sale. But I want to say I put like 100 and some odd hours into that game. I played the hell out of that game. if that game would have been 80, if that game was coming out today and with today's graphics and all that stuff and was $80, I would be hard pressed to argue that I wouldn't find it worth it to buy an $80 game. Did I buy a $70 Assassin's Creed game to play and then ended up putting 15 hours into it and losing interest? Yeah. Like Shadows, I lost interest. I'm not saying Shadows is bad. There's people that really love it. I'm just
It's good, but there
I
was a
lost
point
interest in it.
where I probably did about 15 or 20, and I just kind of stopped playing.
Yeah. Odyssey, I got on sale for like 20 or $30 for the gold, whatever, everything edition. And that I also put 150 hours into. Now, and I streamed all 100 and some odd hours of me playing that game. But my point there is like, would I have been more interested in Shadows if it was a $60 game versus a $70 game?
Honestly,
would it have
I think
felt
the answer might
better?
have been the same.
Yeah, like I probably still would have lost interest in 15 hours, and maybe it would have hurt a little bit less. It is a very subjective question, is what I'm getting at. Is there any game, like you said in the beginning, there's no game worth $80? I don't necessarily think that's true. I just think it's very subjective. The whole reason you set MSRP is to stabilize a market. That's it. Like you want to stabilize expectation. So saying, "Oh yeah, they should be able to see the game should be whatever price they want." Well, in Japan that makes sense because they try to rip you off in the first 2 weeks, and then it plummets in price. And it's like, well, the true fans will pay the $100 that we asked for, and then everyone else will pick it up when it's $30 in a week or two. Okay, let's go to that model. I'll just wait 5 weeks before I buy any game. That seems great to me. The true fans can spend the $80, and then I'll buy in a couple of weeks. I'll buy it at $30.
I don't even think I'd mind it that much, but
no.
But the thing is, like, look, I'm you can call me a hypocrite, and maybe I am. And my thing is like everybody has a price, where it's like, okay, take your favorite game. Would you spend $80 for it? Yes. Do you think it? Does that mean then you think that game is worth $80? No, necessarily. Like, I don't think the game is worth $80 for everyone. For me, it was, but I don't think that you should, as a publisher, you should be saying my game is better than everything else. We're gonna work that extra job, get those extra hours, find that way to make the money because my game is worth it. Blah blah blah. And I couldn't sit here and tell you whatever favorite game of mine, pick it and say like, was it not worth $80? It was worth $80 for me, but it should not have. It didn't cost $80, and it should not have costed $80.
Well, what it comes down to is people are just going to buy less games per person.
Which,
you're going to get
in general,
less
is just going to lead to just more bad things.
Right. It means that you're going to see a contraction of the market as a whole. And again, in the 90s, yeah, games were $80. There was like 8 games that came out that year.
Yeah, and to get a little offside here, where games cost so much, they take so much manpower. If the tech bros are going to get their way here, and if we're going to have an industry dominated by AI, where AI is doing most of the programming and whatever, even according to Microsoft, like 30% of their programming is done by AI now, whatever, then I don't want to.
Windows is so good now.
Yeah, so good. I'm like, then why should we end up paying more cost if you're going to automate more work or more of the game? Like,
well, that's for all the humans they're going to hire to fix all the bullshit the AI does wrong.
Right. So there again, like, retail's dying. Retail's dying fast. Most games are bought digitally. Why do digital games cost the same as retail physical games?
Because they can.
Because they can, and it really would screw. Like, the idea was that, like, well, it screws over retail hard if it costs $20 less digitally. But here's the thing is, like, okay, so say you don't sell the game at retail, like you just don't, or you do what Nintendo's doing with the game key cards, or just you go to a store and you buy a little, like a little piece of cardboard with a code on it that you activate at the register or whatever, right? If that's all your game is a digital download, why should our prices be going up?
Right.
Because at the end of the day is you're making more per game even at $60 digitally than you would be making 15 years ago, $16 retail. You're making more.
This reminds me of shrinkflation.
We have to pay more. The cost on the consumer has to go up, even when your profit margins are basically almost 100%. You know, I mean, not 100%. Obviously, the cost.
No, it's not. But it has grown significantly when you don't have to print as many discs or marketing materials, or think about just the cost of posters.
Right, like
They used
all
to
of
have to
this
send
stuff.
posters to all the stores and crap. They just don't do that anymore. This reminds me of shrinkflation. You know how like Hostess cupcakes have gotten smaller every year for the last like 15 years?
You know, you think a person of my size would have noticed that, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, this is a thing. The way the CEO that saved Hostess when Hostess was having problems saved them is, instead of changing the price to go up, they came in and found ways to cut price from like the boxing, the packaging. Ding dongs don't come in foil anymore. They come in like a plastic thing. They're 20% smaller than they were when he took over. So all of this stuff just gradually has gotten smaller on a scale that you won't notice day to day, year to year. But now you hold a Hostess cupcake, the little chocolate cupcakes, and you can tell they're half the size they used to be, 15 or 20 years ago. And it's like, oh, well, we're seeing video game shrinkflation. They are getting rid of their costs while increasing price on us, so that hopefully we won't notice that they are doubling their profits.
Yeah,
that's basically what we're
so again,
in boiling water.
I don't think executives and CEOs should be telling us to be true fans, to stop complaining, to realize
well, it's a marketing
how
gimmick,
great
right?
a value, your product is, your luxury, unnecessary to live product is.
It's sort of like how brands still expect brand loyalty, or companies still expect like employee loyalty.
Well, they expect. Well, I mean, because people like Nintendo get it.
Well, yeah, but Nintendo gets brand loyalty because Nintendo doesn't. Yeah, I mean, they do plenty of shady things, but like Nintendo doesn't just suddenly fuck you. Like they don't just like when Nintendo switched to $70 games for the Switch. I can distinctly recall us calling it out and saying it was shitty.
Yeah, and well, the interesting thing is they only did it once. They did it once with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
They didn't try pulling it again. But I think they also knew that Tears of the Kingdom was going to be the last like 10 million seller.
Yeah.
The last game that they made on the Switch that was guaranteed to sell at least 10 million copies. So let's jump the price on that fucker. $70.
Right.
And it worked kind of, because the thing is, Breath of the Wild right now sells on pace, or sometimes depending on the quarter, better than Tears of the Kingdom does.
Really?
To this day. Yes.
That's why. Because
wild.
It's a better game.
Just wild. Well, because I mean, there are still people buying Switches even for the first time, even 8 years in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And when they see Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and they see there's a price difference, and they look at the back and they look identical, like
right.
To the naked eye, they look identical. And everyone loved the game, so up with the cheaper one.
Well, I mean, that is one thing that Nintendo can suck it on, is they never lower the prices of their games ever. They just
the whole idea, like, oh well, we're devaluing our brand, if we lower the price, and it's like, except you did that all the time, every generation up until the Switch. It's only because the Switch is successful that you stopped doing it.
Yeah. Well, it makes me very curious. I mean, I still personally think the Switch 2 is going to be very successful. But I wonder if it's not as successful as the Switch 1, which I all evidence to me says it's not going to be quite as gangbusters as Switch 1.
I don't sell
Still
well,
going to be,
but like,
yeah, it's still going to be great. It's still going to be a success.
It almost can't. It just there's too
Yeah,
many
there's just
things.
no way it's
There's
gonna
too
hit the
many
same.
factors that aren't even the Switch 2's fault that are just going to prevent it from
Right.
selling as well.
So part of me is like, are you gonna see price drops on Switch 2? Like, are you
No,
gonna see
oh God,
stuff
no.
to try and boost the sales to match
No,
Switch
you know
1?
what'll happen is not Switch 2, not the system. System's never going down.
Oh, well, I meant Switch 2, like just generally games.
But games, I don't think are going to go down either.
Really?
Probably. Switch 1 games will finally start to dip.
Right, because they are going to be sort of backwards compatible.
There will be this moment where this, like, okay, Breath of the Wild is 10 years old now. And we sold it for 60, we sold it for 70 on the Switch 2.
It's only a couple years away.
I know.
Good
And then
God.
they go, okay, not the Switch 2 version, but maybe we'll drop it to 50 or 40 for the Switch 1 version of Breath of the Wild 1 on the Switch 1. And you're like, okay, maybe. They start doing that. Maybe they do it with like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because they're selling Mario Kart World. They got a World to sell at $80. And 8 Deluxe maybe not because those games still sell. So maybe they don't. But I think Switch 1 games will very creepily start to sell. Maybe not discount, but a little bit, 30% less.
Where do you think Xbox comes in on this?
They already announced it straight up. The games are going up to $80. The console prices are going to go up. Like Microsoft is just being honest. Like, yeah, we're getting tariffed. Things are going up. Sony's done it in other parts of the world. And they've already told investors that it's something they might announce later is increase on games and system.
So the reason that I ask like where they come in on it is like, yeah, they've announced that they're going to go up to 80. Do you think you're going to see price drops from them regularly enough that, because if they go up to 80 on this, like it's still like, just kick Game Pass. Why are you running
with Xbox? It kind of feels like even going up to 80, you know what that does? That just becomes a bigger commercial for Game Pass.
Right. But that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I'm not really sure why they would bother
like
increasing the price.
They're going to probably want to and probably try to increase Game Pass again, which they really, 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 really shouldn't, but they will. If anything, I would say don't increase Game Pass. Just drop the basic tiers. Just make everyone subscribe to Ultimate or something. I don't know.
Right. Well, so Game Pass has
or don't touch Ultimate, but like slightly bump basic. I don't know.
It's leveled out, right? Like hasn't Game Pass subscriptions?
Yeah, it's like it's slow growth, but I think actually, well, we don't know, but a rumor is because of the last 2 months, Game Pass has like boomed because of Clair Obscur
Right.
and Doom and even others, Blueprints. I'm sure other games like South of Midnight getting some acclaim is helping too. And dude, and in like a week, Metaphor is coming to Game Pass.
Right.
That was a big game last October from Sega Atlas. So it's like cool. Like,
well, it is still. It won't always be. Eventually, it will no longer be a good deal. The way Netflix is no longer streaming now sucks cocks. Eventually, Game Pass will hit the right.
I think the worst thing about Game Pass is that the cloud streaming version is running off Series S.
Boof.
And I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. It must be like a bandwidth issue or something. But
how often do you stream games to play them?
I used to do it a little more, but it was right around Indiana Jones when I was like running on the computer and it kept like crashing or whatever. So I'm like, let me just stream it off of Game Pass. And I'm like, why does it look so much worse? I'm like, because it was running off of Series S. They stream off Series S, not X. And I was like, oh. But I used to use it a lot more when I was like, and I probably still will use it. Where it's like, look, how much is this game to download? Well, not how much, like how much space? Oh, it's 100 gigabytes. Let's stream it. Let's stream it for an hour and see how we feel.
And it works pretty well?
Well enough, yeah. Well,
Huh.
I don't know if I'd play a fighting game on it, but
yeah, I mean, I imagine there's some real delay.
but I also have gigabit internet, you know. So
Yeah, well, that shit should become standard across the country.
sure,
But
sure should. Yeah, so I've having fiber probably also helps a lot, but I love the streaming feature. It's just kind of like I can't believe you're streaming off a Series S and not an X. Like, oh my god, why?
all right, I want to wrap up the episode on a positive note, if there is any positive to all of this. The backlash might actually have effect, maybe. And here's
Right, because I don't think we have Mario Kart World's not out yet, and I think you're going to see an insanely small number of people buying Mario Kart World for $80 because I think everybody in their mother, brother, sister, cousin, whatever will be buying the bundle until they stop selling the bundle in the fall.
right.
Because that you know, it's only $50 at that case. Granted, they had a new interview come out with the Mario Kart dev team, and it really helped the game from a pitch standpoint.
Really?
Yeah, it's a really good interview. It kind of really describes it. You're like, okay, so they've been working on this game for 8 years.
Wow.
They started working on it in late 2017, and then in 2020 they rebooted it into a Switch 2 game. So they've been working on it and playtesting ideas forever on the thing.
Well, every new thing that comes out about it is just like, oh, there's that much new content in it.
Yeah.
There's
There's
new
200
ideas,
music tracks in the game.
Yeah.
Like,
Crazy.
and a lot of it live instrumentation too. So it's like, okay, like work is going into this game. But again, that's like I think that's the first standard $80 game to come out next month, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, if you get a Switch 2, there's going to be such a small percentage of people who are like, no, I wanted to buy the system a la carte, and then I wanted to pay $80 for Mario Kart World on top of it.
Well, I mean, the people who couldn't get the bundle, if the bundle was sold
like
out.
if it was like, yeah, you're going to see that. But I think there's also going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, I'll wait a month for Donkey Kong at 70. You know, or I'll wait
Right.
till...
Especially
or I'm just
given
gonna
other
resell
economic
it.
concerns, right? Like,
Right.
there's-
So when by the end of the year, if say Borderlands 4 is $80, if you know all these other games come out at $80, if Ghost of Yotei comes out at $80, I'm going to have to seriously consider my options if Ghost of Yotei comes out at $80.
So the two things that could happen here is that by fall, if everything's coming out at $80, it might have normalized, and so people will be willing to accept it. Or if nobody's buying games at $80, which I doubt, but if nobody's buying the games at $80, by fall, those games aren't going to be $80.
Or by next spring for sure.
If nobody's buying any games coming out at $80, you don't think Sony would have a little bit of a butthole panic and be like, oh...
Well, like Sega and Ubisoft, they do like they will drop fast. They're two companies that are like, okay, they'll release a game full price, and if it just doesn't sell at all, it's like a month or two later, they're like, all right, time to sell it for less.
Yeah.
Would Sony do that? That would be a little unprecedented because first parties almost never waver. Although we saw what Sony did with Concord, where that came out and that sold so catastrophically bad, they pulled the project off the shelf in 10 days. And maybe history will repeat itself with Marathon.
That's going to be wild. Yeah, I guess let's not end on a positive note. Did you see that Marathon wholesale ripped off like an artist?
Yeah, and their response was like, "Oh, it was someone on the team that no longer works here. We're going to work to get to the bottom." It just sounded like OJ, you know, we're scrambling to find the killer.
The friggin' Sony ponies being like, "Oh, it was an accident. Oh, it wasn't the real build of the game, so it doesn't count." And it's like that's not how that shit works, dude.
That went through many different approvals. Many people signed off on that.
Yeah, and you
now,
can't
granted,
just...
all the people who signed off probably didn't know it was stolen, but like, yeah.
You can't use copywritten material even privately for a project like that and just be like, oh yeah, this isn't the finished build, so it's not actually copyright infringement. That's not how that works.
You showed it publicly. It was publicly
Right.
displayed footage.
Even if it wasn't, yeah, but all their marketing material is using that artist's work and stuff too.
I mean, they said they were going to compensate them.
Yeah, and that's going to be an arbitration for however long. They're going to obviously try not to, because that artist could sue them. And I mean, like, sue them for real money. We're going to compensate. Absolutely, you are. Otherwise, I'm going to sue
Marathon is cursed, and I can't remember. There was a content creator who interviewed. He actually got a hold of someone at Bungie, and they straight up said like Bungie's had huge management issues from the top. It's like the people running the company are like, and other people were kind of echoing the sentiment too, who had previously worked there, or been there before, and apparently like the heads of Bungie are wildly out of touch. With actual game development, and they're very much in the sort of like make money. I didn't come from game development. But I'm in like this leadership position. And my thing is make numbers go up kind of thing.
Well, I mean, that's just so sad given Bungie had a lot of trust, and it's just like over the last several years, they've just eroded all of it away. It seems
how and why did this become Blizzard 2.0 so quickly?
Well, because the entire industry is becoming that quickly.
It's just, but like, like Blizzard was like the Blizzard was the hero, the do no wrong, the batting 1,000.
Yeah, and then they got bought by Activision.
Then slowly but surely, the tendrils of Bobby Kotick and his ilk worm their way into that.
What it really is so much money got into the industry that there is no section of the industry that isn't totally and utterly infected by it. And it's like, yeah, it's good because look at how much bigger the industry is, and we've got arguably the best selection of games we've ever had just sort of coming out all the time. And that's really good. But also more and more positions of power in the gaming industry are taken by money men, not by people who actually make games. So it's never the person who built the industry into what it is, that made it a success, that becomes the CEO. It's, usually people with business degrees that get brought in from outside to figure out how to make the line go up. That's how every industry goes, unfortunately. And if you're tech, you started out at that point because it's an investment-driven industry and has been from the beginning. That's why startups are wild, and why so many startups can't make the transition to a matured company. They fail after a certain couple of years of going public.
I mean, the real heroes right now are people like Sandfall and Kepler.
Yeah,
small time publisher of an upstart developer who won't publish their numbers publicly.
Devolver even technically is a little bit of a hero.
Yeah, the people who made Repo, where they've sold like over 3 million, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4 to 8 million copies of that game in early access. Lethal Company, stuff like that, and it's just kind of like they're like, okay. The thing that's funny about them, like, okay, another one. Let's take Among Us, Inner Sloth, right? And it's a 4-person.
Came out.
Yeah, like a 4-person team added a 5th or whatever, and they made a bunch of money from that, and so they went into indie publishing. But you don't hear about Inner Sloth or Outer Sloth, their publishing branch, doing the same things that Bungie and Blizzard did. Because they're just like, oh, let's just sell a game.
I think more and more developers are wary of investment money, like investor money. Losing control of their game or their company or whatever. I think a lot of them are more and more wary of publishers in general.
Yeah.
It's one of the things like Valve is a privately owned company that has the largest digital platform. They should just do more. Like the only thing they're not doing is marketing games
or making
specifically.
games.
Or making games. But it's like they could easily become publishers just by nature of like marketing. They just hire a couple of marketing people to work with games that
I don't
want
know.
to
They
sell
have
on
like they
their
have a great
platform.
strategy going. Do nothing, still make money.
Yes, and in a weird way, they're the best of us for it. They don't fuck with the sauce. They just
I mean, they made the Steam Deck, and that's been a huge success and everything. So
Yeah. But it's like they could step into publishing privately, right? They don't need to get investors. They don't need stock price, and they could just be the largest independent publisher
yeah,
almost overnight if they wanted to.
100%. I mean, they did used to publish stuff too. They have
Yeah.
published.
Oh,
They
yeah,
did,
yeah.
You know,
They know how to
published
do it.
Turtle Rock stuff with like Left 4 Dead and stuff. But like, I don't know. I just again, you look at Claire Obscure, which again Kepler published it from Sandfall. They priced it at $50, not because the game was short or clunky or looked bad. It's a new IP, and it's kind of a like a new twist on an old idea. We don't know if people are really going to want to bite. It's $60. So let's price the game at 50. Oh shit, it's a huge hit and it sells millions of copies in 10 days.
Yeah.
And most people will tell you it's their best experience they've had with a video game this year.
Well, it reignited a ton of people's passion specifically for like an entire genre of RPG.
Exactly. So I think ultimately my point is like we can argue the semantics of price per dollar or personal value or whatever, but I'm at the end of the day, I don't think games need to cost $80 because if your game is good and your game has is just has enough quality behind it, you can still make a shit ton of money at 50.
Right. It doesn't
You do it
need
80.
to cost that much.
People
definitely.
are like these assholes, and that's what they are, assholes saying that like you should stop complaining. You're a real fan if you buy it. You're charging $80 because you're fucking Sony or Take Two, and you goddamn need that big ass buck dollar. You need that year over year to look huge. Where Kepler doesn't. Kepler sold Chia last year to like 5 people, including me. So
You bought 3 of those copies.
in Scorn on Game Pass or whatever. So it's like the problem is not whether or not games games cost too much, games need all this, blah, blah, blah. It's the fact that you've ballooned the whole damn industry. And the people telling us we shouldn't complain or we would be real fans to work for, you're only saying that because the mega corp you worked for is such a out of control behemoth. You look like the lady from Slither.
Oh,
Okay, like that's the problem. That is, and frankly, that is their problem, and they're passing it on to us. They're telling us it's our problem, or we should be thankful for it because they're the ones who are bloated beyond belief.
they sound like used car salesmen.
Randy always has.
No, he's a magician. He makes pee disappear. On that note, we have
Onto his USB
producers.
stick.
We have producers to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Hockey Kong 64. Thank you so much. And our producers for this episode are Dragonwolf Makoto, Austenite, Zybernite, Tsunami, Croy35, Hyper Viper 89, LCL Mayhem, and Ziggy Z. Thank you, dudes. We'll catch you next time.
Later, dudes.